Understanding cable tray fill requirements is essential for safe and compliant electrical installations. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides guidelines for determining the maximum allowable fill for cable trays to ensure proper ventilation, prevent overheating, and facilitate future maintenance or modifications. This explanation focuses on multi-conductor tray cables, specifically the size 3/0 or smaller, within a cable tray having a 3-inch load depth and a total width of 24 inches. We will be referencing NEC Table 318.9 Column 1, which addresses this specific configuration. The key takeaway is that the maximum allowable fill for the scenario is 40%. This percentage represents the maximum portion of the cable tray's cross-sectional area that can be occupied by cables. To effectively apply this 40% fill limitation, it's crucial to understand how to calculate the cable tray's cross-sectional area and the combined area of the cables being installed. The calculation begins with determining the total cross-sectional area of the cable tray. Since the tray is described as having a 3-inch load depth and being 24 inches wide, the total cross-sectional area available for cable fill is calculated by multiplying these two dimensions together. Therefore, the total area is 3 inches multiplied by 24 inches, which equals 72 square inches. Next, the 40% fill limitation needs to be applied to this total area. This is done by multiplying the total area, 72 square inches, by 40%, or 0.40. This calculation results in 28.8 square inches. This 28.8 square inches represents the maximum allowable combined cross-sectional area that all of the cables installed in the tray can occupy. Now let's consider the individual cables being installed. Each cable has its own cross-sectional area, which depends on its size and construction. Cable manufacturers typically provide this information in their product specifications. When installing multiple cables in the tray, the cross-sectional area of each cable must be added together to determine the total combined area of all the cables. For example, if you were installing 10 3/0 cables, you would need to find the cross-sectional area of a single 3/0 cable from the manufacturer's datasheet. Then, you would multiply that area by 10 to find the total combined area of all 10 cables. To ensure compliance with the NEC, the total combined area of all the cables installed in the tray must not exceed the maximum allowable fill area, which, as we calculated earlier, is 28.8 square inches for the specific cable tray configuration. If the combined cable area exceeds this limit, adjustments must be made to reduce the fill. This can be achieved by using a wider cable tray, reducing the number of cables, or using cables with smaller diameters. It's important to note that NEC Table 318.9 includes multiple columns that apply to different cable tray configurations and cable types. For example, other columns may address single conductor cables or cable trays with different load depths or widths. Always refer to the specific column that matches your installation conditions. Additionally, it is important to consult the most current version of the NEC, as codes and standards are subject to revisions and updates. Local electrical codes and regulations may also impose additional requirements or restrictions that must be followed. Failing to comply with cable tray fill requirements can lead to several problems. Overfilled cable trays can restrict airflow, causing cables to overheat. This can reduce the lifespan of the cables, increase the risk of insulation breakdown, and potentially lead to electrical failures or even fires. Overfilling can also make it difficult to access and maintain the cables in the future, hindering troubleshooting and repair efforts. In addition to the fill limitations specified in NEC Table 318.9, other factors can also affect the allowable cable fill. These include the type of cable, the presence of splices or taps, and the cable tray's construction. For example, cables with larger diameters or irregular shapes may require more space than cables with smaller diameters or round shapes. Splices and taps can also take up additional space and should be factored into the fill calculations. The cable tray's construction, such as whether it is ladder type or solid bottom, can also affect the available fill space. To ensure accurate fill calculations, it is recommended to use a cable tray fill calculator or consult with a qualified electrical engineer or contractor. These resources can help you determine the appropriate cable tray size and configuration for your specific installation. Let's elaborate on some practical considerations when dealing with multi-conductor tray cables and cable trays. Firstly, consider the impact of cable bending radius. Multi-conductor cables, especially larger sizes like 3/0, have minimum bending radius requirements specified by the manufacturer. When routing cables in the tray, ensure that these bending radii are maintained to avoid damaging the conductors or insulation. Sharp bends can create stress points and compromise the cable's integrity, potentially leading to premature failure. Secondly, proper cable support and securement within the tray are crucial. Cables should be adequately supported at regular intervals to prevent sagging or strain. Cable ties, clamps, or other approved methods should be used to secure the cables to the tray, ensuring they remain in place and do not interfere with other cables or equipment. Thirdly, consider the impact of environmental factors on cable selection and fill limitations. If the cable tray is located in an area with high temperatures, corrosive chemicals, or excessive moisture, it's essential to select cables that are specifically rated for those conditions. Additionally, tolerating factors may need to be applied to the cable's ampacity based on the ambient temperature and the number of current carrying conductors in the tray. This tolerating can further reduce the allowable cable fill. Fourthly, planning for future expansion is a wise practice. When designing a cable tray system, consider the possibility of adding more cables in the future. Leaving some extra space in the tray can make it easier to accommodate future needs without having to replace the entire tray system. This can save time and money in the long run. Fifthly, documentation and labeling are essential for proper cable tray management. Maintain accurate records of the cables installed in each tray, including their size, type, and destination. Label each cable clearly and legibly to facilitate identification and troubleshooting. This information can be invaluable when performing maintenance or making modifications to the system. Sixthly, consider the use of cable management accessories. Cable trays are often equipped with a variety of accessories that can help organize and protect the cables. These accessories may include dividers, dropouts, covers, and grounding kits. Using these accessories can improve the overall appearance and functionality of the cable tray system. Seventhly, it's important to remember that the NEC is a minimum standard. In some cases, it may be necessary to exceed the NEC requirements to ensure safe and reliable installation. For example, in critical applications, it may be prudent to use a larger cable tray than required by the NEC to provide additional space for ventilation and future expansion. Eighthly, when working with cable trays, always follow safe work practices. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses. Use caution when handling cables and tools, and be aware of potential hazards such as electrical shock and falls. Ninthly, it's important to coordinate with other trades during the installation process. Cable trays often share space with other systems, such as HVAC ducts and plumbing pipes. Proper coordination can help avoid conflicts and ensure that all systems are installed safely and efficiently. Tenthly, after the installation is complete, it's essential to perform a thorough inspection to ensure that all cables are properly installed and supported. Check for any signs of damage or stress and make any necessary corrections. Regular inspection should also be performed throughout the life of the cable tray system to identify and address any potential problems. In conclusion, understanding and applying the cable tray fill requirements outlined in NEC Table 318.9 Column 1 is essential for safe, compliant, and reliable electrical installations. By carefully calculating the cable tray's cross-sectional area, determining the combined area of the cables being installed, and adhering to the 40% fill limitation, you can ensure that your cable tray system meets the NEC requirements and provides years of trouble-free service. Remember to always consult the latest version of the NEC and local electrical codes, and seek guidance from qualified professionals when necessary.